So therefore, from this we understand that the crowning anointing Hashem is through the Jewish nation. So now the Rebbe is going to be explaining where did the whole union of Krishma start from. With this we'll understand. With this we'll also understand the connection to Matan Torah. What does the crown have to do with Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah? Here there's an apostrophe missing. The crowning, the anointing above, was through the Shiras Yisrael, through the praise of the Jewish nation by saying Shema Yisrael. And where did they get Shema Yisrael? Where did the Jewish nation merit Krishma? Matan Torah. Zochu Yisrael Krishma. Likrishma. From Matan Torah, they merited to reach Shema. Although the Chayra, we know it comes from Yankov Avinu and the Shvatim. One of them said one verse, and the second one, they said Shema Yisrael, and then came Baruch Shem. I mean, the Yankov and his sons, between them. This is where it started, and it became an Aveda of Shira. Keitza dat meitzer, as the Medrash says, in Dvarim Rabbe, Medrash Rabbe Dvarim, Keitza dat meitzer, how do you find it? Like, Posach HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'Sinai tchila b'davar zeh. The Eibishter began. How did he open up in Sinai? Omer lehem Shema Yisrael Anechi Hashem Elokecha. The Eibishter said, Shema Yisrael Anechi Hashem Elokecha. Nenu kulam v'omru Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. So they all answered Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. V'hainu the Hashem Elokeinu hu hamayne v'kibul ala dibur Anechi Hashem Elokecha. Hashem Elokeinu is a response and an accepting, receiving, accepting the dibur Anechi Hashem Elokecha. Positive. Anechi Hashem Elokecha, Hashem Elokeinu. Hashem Echad, which means one and only, negating everything else. Who Amayne is a response, v'kibul, and a confirmation, accepting hadibur le'yiloch, that there shouldn't be any idols. So this is how the first commandment, first two commandments of Aseres HaDibros relate to Shema Yisrael. There shouldn't be any idols. These two commandments, the first two commandments, Matan Torah, is the general inyan of Matan Torah. These two commandments they heard directly from Hashem. To the extent that they were said as one. Mishum shem klolos kol ha-Torah kula. Because they are actually the whole general union of Torah. And as the Rebbe explains in a Siyum of Rambam Siyum, which was before the season of the Rambam, a good 9 years earlier, in 1975, there was a Fabrengen in Yutas Kislev, the Rebbe made on that famous Siyum on the Rambam, was a whole kuntras came out, very askoladik Siyum. And the Rebbe brought out that the Rambam begins with the two, the halachas of the Rambam is basically mitzvah leida, that there's a union you should know, that Yesha Motzi Rishon, there is someone there who created everything, and in addition to that, as he says further, Val Yala Vim Yala Aladas, that maybe he is absent in certain places, so he says, it's not like that, it doesn't make any sense. So the Rebbe says, these are the two nikudas in Torah mitzvahs. There is the nikuda of positive, the positive mitzvahs, and then there's the union of negative. In other words, in positive is bringing down Hashem, and by transgressing the negative, it's like concealing on Hashem. So the Rebbe brings out that this is why the Rambam begins his Sefer Halacha with this thought, because this thought is a hagdama to understand what mitzvahs mean. It's a beautiful siyum. It goes on for about 20 prokim, 20 chapters, I think. It's a very haskaladik, the big connection, beginning and the end. It's mamish very unique. It was never printed in the Sichas. It's printed with a pink kuntras. It came out for the first siyum harambam that they did in 1985. After completing the first cycle, so that's when it was published.
You maybe said it all in one night?
Yeah. Could be that later there were things added in writing, but it's mamash very, how the Rebbe goes through the first halachas of the Rambam explaining Poshet, basic concepts in Amunah, and how this reflects the two kavin of positive and negative as they are in mitzvahs.
What's the quintessence?
Hadrin al Rambam. Yeah, Yutas Kislev Tovshin Lamed Hey, but I think they wrote the date because they gave it out in Tovshin Mem Hey, Yud Aleph Nisan time. It was the first seams. I think they might have written also Tovshin Mem Hey on the thing. It's a thick kuntres. It's a vogike kuntres, a geschmacke kuntres. It's al derech like kuntres in Yonesh al Teres Achsidus, on the essence of Chassidus. Very haskolodik, but mamish deep. You can possibly see there was someone in Eretz Yisrael that the Rebbe wanted. From the brisker, I think, the Rebbe wanted, asked if he heard the Siyum. And later, when somebody went over to him, months later, he says, I know the Siyum by heart, and I can tell you every word of the Siyum. He had a very big geschmack in it. It's a very deep way, the way the Rebbe analyzed the Rambam. He carried it on a very deep level.
Is that the one they gave out for free at Fabringham? Like later on? They gave a hadron out for free at one time?
There were, if it's that year, I don't know. This one is like a thick kuntres. I mean, not too thick, but it's, I don't know if that's the one, unless they gave it out in 1985 for the first Siyum. That could very well be. The Kololus Kol HaTeira Kule is actually something that the Alter Rebbe says also in Tanya. You see, Ha'ora 23, that these are the two inyanim that are basically, on one hand, the inyan of Chiyuv, and the other hand, the inyan of Leisasa, which is connected with the Shasa Leisasa, not letting negative elements dominate Kedusha, as Alter Rebbe explains in Perek Lamed Zayin. So in a sense, this is basically how the Rebbe was explaining the Rambam. That on one hand there is Chiyuv, which means bringing down the revelation through the 248 limbs, 248 commandments, referred to as positive commandments, and together with that, also to make sure, through the 365 negative commandments, to make sure that the negative elements should not dominate anything in the world, which means to not allow them to take over the person or his share in the world. Chelke Ba'elam. So this is how the Alter Rebbe begins in Perek Chof, and then in Perek Lamed Zayin, the Alter Rebbe discusses the aspects of the positive commandments and negative commandments. From this we understand the anointing. With this we'll understand that it's dafke matan teira ki inyan achtora, the inyan of the crowning anointing hareyu al yedei amira Shema Yisrael is through saying the Shema Yisrael, Shiras Yisrael, which is the praise of the Jewish nation, and that Shazem Mevi, and that brings about Shiras HaMalachim, the praise of the angels. Hamachtirim as HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'shalish kedushas, that they anoint Hashem, the Almighty, with three sanctuaries. Umeheichon zochu Yisrael likrishma, and where did the Yidden merit Krishma b'shas Matan Torah? It started by Matan Torah. So therefore, everything ties together, is all interrelated. Now the Rebbe continues and asks a question: Why do Yidden need the Malachim to do it for them? Why can't they do it on their own? Why do they need somebody as an emissary for them? What do they need the Malachim? Why can't they anoint Hashem through their saying Kodesh 3 times, as they say it every day? They say it in the Birchas Krishma, and then they say it in Kedusha. Because the Aveda, the service of the Jewish nation, which means they're praising Hashem, is as they are neshama, souls in bodies, exclusively in this physical world. In this physical world, there's nothing lower than it. This is the ultimate intention. The ultimate plan is to make this world a dwelling place for the Almighty. This is accomplished through the Jewish nation as they are neshamas begufim. That Hashem Himself desires the creation.